At its height, the British Empire occupied a quarter of the globe and dictated the lives of over 400 million people. It was a scale of dominion that seemed impossible for a small island nation with no massive standing army. In the early 1600s, England was a minor power on the fringes of Europe. It was dwarfed by the Spanish and Portuguese fleets and completely overshadowed by the sheer wealth and military might of the Mughal and Ottoman empires. The path to dominance began with a strategic pivot. Rather than attempting to match the land-based superpowers of Asia and Europe, Britain focused entirely on the construction and logistics of the sea. By prioritizing naval reach over territorial conquest, the British created a mobile military force that could strike any coastline, bypassing the need for a traditional, massive land army. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I signed a royal charter granting a group of merchants a monopoly on trade in the East Indies. This authorized the formation of the East India Company, a private corporation that would act as the primary vehicle for British expansion. Initially, the company operated as a purely commercial entity. Its goal was to secure profit by transporting Asian spices, silk, and cotton to the high-demand markets of Europe. Expansion happened incrementally. Ships would secure permission to build small warehouses in unfortified ports. Then, the company would bring in private guards to defend those warehouses, gradually building a military presence inside foreign borders. This commercial entry served as a strategic camouflage. By the time local rulers recognized the threat, the company had already established the economic and military infrastructure needed to exert political control. Britain's most effective tool was not the cannon, but the exploitation of local politics. They identified internal rivalries within massive kingdoms, offering military support to one faction to ensure the defeat of the other. The 1757 Battle of Plassey served as the definitive demonstration of this tactic, effectively handing the company control over the wealthy region of Bengal. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the British won the battle before the first shot was fired by bribing the Nawab's lead general, Mir Jafar, to betray his ruler. Through these methods, the company transitioned from a merchant entity into a territorial ruler. They converted local rivalries into a system of total dominion, transforming sovereign nations into colonial assets. As the British Industrial Revolution accelerated, the empire's territories were reconfigured to serve as vast source networks for raw materials. This established a predatory loop. Raw cotton and silk harvested in the colonies were shipped directly to British factories. Once processed, finished goods were shipped back, forcing captive markets to buy British products at high prices, draining wealth back to London. To eliminate competition, the British imposed regulations that dismantled India's world-leading textile industry. Skilled weavers were impoverished, unable to compete with cheap machine-made imports. Britain fueled its own rise by engineering the economic decline of its subjects, using their resources to subsidize domestic growth while preventing those same colonies from developing their own industrial bases. The empire fortified these economic routes by seizing maritime choke points like the Suez Canal and Singapore, reducing the time and cost of moving colonial wealth. While the British built massive networks of railways and telegraphs, the primary purpose was efficiency for the state. These systems allowed the government to extract resources and deploy troops to suppress internal dissent with unprecedented speed. This focus on extraction led to human catastrophe. During the late 19th century, millions died in policy-driven famines. In many cases, the administration prioritized maintaining export records, even as local food supplies vanished. The global infrastructure of the 19th century functioned as a highly optimized system of control, built to serve the logistical needs of the empire at the direct expense of local populations. Resistance to this system began early. In North America, the 13 colonies rejected British economic control, sparking a war for independence that stripped the empire of its most developed Western territories. In 1857, a massive uprising in India shattered the company's authority. While the rebellion was defeated, it forced the British Crown to dissolve the company and transition to direct rule to prevent a total loss of the territory. By the 1940s, the financial cost of 2 world wars had pushed the empire toward bankruptcy. London lay in physical and financial ruin, leaving the government unable to fund the military force required to maintain global occupation. This exhaustion coincided with the rise of unified, nonviolent defiance. Figures like Mahatma Gandhi led movements that Britain's conventional military power was not designed to defeat, making the empire's continued presence morally and politically untenable. The combination of internal economic exhaustion and the total loss of local cooperation made the maintenance of a physical empire a logistical impossibility. In 1947, the independence and partition of India marked the point where the cost of physical occupation finally outweighed the benefits of direct rule. As the formal empire collapsed, Britain pivoted to soft power. They established the Commonwealth, maintaining a voluntary political and economic network that preserved British influence without the cost of direct administration. The physical presence vanished, but the administrative legacy remained. The arbitrary borders drawn by colonial officials across the Middle East and Africa remain primary sources of geopolitical conflict in the 21st century. The empire's most pervasive lingering asset is the English language. Once a tool for administrative control, it has become the default framework for global commerce, aviation, and the internet. The physical empire fell under its own weight, that its language, legal systems, and historical fractures remain the inescapable infrastructure of the modern world.